We are live.
Good evening, folks. Thanks for joining us for tonight's combined COW meeting. Ordinarily, we do this in two meetings, but tonight we're superstars and we're going to do it all tonight. Let me ask if we have regrets. We have regrets from Councillor Hunt. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're now in order. Let me ask you to rise for the invocation if you can. As we come together today, we recognize the great responsibilities laid upon us. Our council will always strive to understand the needs of the people we serve and to use power wisely and well. Our purpose is to establish and maintain a city of prosperity and righteousness where freedom prevails and where justice rules. We acknowledge the rich history of this city, which includes the original First Nations peoples and those pioneers who built this city after them. We recognize our responsibility to use and take care of our city responsibly and respectfully while remembering generations past and considering those yet to come. Let us also not forget those who served our community and who are no longer with us so that we can continue to do the work in their memory. Please be seated. And roll call.
Roll's been taken.
Thank you very much. Bear with me a second. Declarations of conflicts of interest. Any? Seeing none, we will move on. We have one delegation this evening. Is that correct? And that individual is online. Oh, I'm sorry, I've got the wrong. Yeah, sorry. We need the mover and seconder for separated items. Councillor Sullivan, are you there? Would you like to move that? Yeah. Yeah. Separation, sorry. Mayor Davis, go ahead, please, sir.
7.1.1.
Other separations. 7.1.1.
Bill 60.
Yes, okay. I'll be separating 7.1.2. We have two resolutions before us. That leaves not much. Nothing. So motion for everything that's before us, moved by Councillor Sullivan. Seconder is
Councillor Sicoli.
Thank you very much. So we'll be moving on now to the delegation. Do we have her online yet? Okay.
Rosie, you can turn your camera on now and unmute yourself.
Ms. Carr, welcome. You have 10 minutes to present tonight, including questions. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, councillors, and community members and guests. My name is Rosie Kaur. I'm an educator in Caledon, Ontario. I stand before you with deep pride, gratitude, and emotion, as I was born and raised in Brantford in 1973, a city that shaped my childhood, my identity, and my purpose. My older brother still resides in Brantford. My parents immigrated to Brantford in 1973, becoming one of the first Sikh families there at that time. Growing up, we were often the only Sikh children many teachers and students had ever seen. I still remember my mother with limited English going into my brother's elementary school, Fairview, to teach the class about why they tied their hair in a jura, which is known as a top knot, because no one understood why their hair could not be cut or why it was worn the way that it was. She stood there nervous yet proud, explaining our Sikh identity so that children and teachers could better understand and respect the Sikh faith. Tonight, I feel like I carry her courage. Tonight, I stand here to continue her work. The Patka Box is a global trademarked educational resource that I had created to help schools, recreation centers, and now going into hospital settings, specifically to understand the Sikh identity and why Sikh children wear the Patka. It teaches why children keep their hair uncut, proper care for child's Patka if it should come off at school, and how to support sick students with confidence. And most importantly, how to create safe, inclusive, respectful environments for them. This is not just a box, it's an identity, it's a belonging, it's safety, it's representation. 3 years ago, a school teacher from Peel Region called me. She wasn't from the faith. She had a sick student in her class crying in the corner, asking for help on his patka. She called me, and we continued the call through a WhatsApp video to help and assist her. She had no resource, no guide, no training. That one phone call changed everything. That night, I sat down and I created the resource within 24 hours, and I called it the Patka Box. Today, over 20,000 Patka boxes have been completed. City councils across Canada have approved motions supporting this resource. Recreation centers have now integrated it with professional learning. School districts across Canada have also used it daily. And the movement is now growing into hospitals and child life departments and healthcare settings, where identity protection is urgently needed. CBC, City TV have covered my story because something that began with one child is now supporting thousands. So why am I here choosing Brantford? It's a place where my parents built their first life. This is where my father, my greatest teacher, told me that one day I would help children grow not just academically, but psychologically. He passed away in 2013, and he built the first Sikh temple on North Park. I feel his blessings every time a child looks into the mirror and feels proud of who they are. Every time a teacher learns how to support a sick student. Every time a parent feels relief knowing that their child is understood and respected. To stand here virtually and to share this movement with all of you, it's more than a delegation. I feel it's fulfilling a wish that my father held in his heart, that I would serve children, uplift identity, and build an understanding wherever I go. I hope that the city of Brantford can join this movement, not just because it began with one of your own, but because representation matters. Sick children in Brantford, it's growing, and they deserve what sick children across Canada are now receiving: education, safety, respect, and identity. I am really grateful for Councillor Rose Sicoli for taking the time to listen to my story, for understanding the heart behind this initiative, and for bringing this motion forward. Your openness means more than you know. In closing, the Patka Box is not just for sick children. It's a tool that will strengthen communities. It teaches inclusion. It breaks down barriers. And it reminds us that when we see a child's identity, we see the future. Brantford is where my story began. And today I'm honored to bring this resource to all of you. Thank you for your time, your openness, and for considering this motion. May my father's legacy and the identities of every child continue to be honored through this work. Thank you.
Ms. Carr, thank you for your presentation. That was excellent. Councillor Sicoli, you are first in the queue. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair McCurry. Hi, Rosie. Thank you
Hi.
for coming. I'm wondering if you can explain the way the cost of this works, because I understand that this is a project that's really important to you and that you're bringing this forward to honor your father's legacy, and that can you touch a little bit on what that expectation would be?
So the box is used as an educational resource. So it has all training materials in there. What's a patka? What does a Sikh faith identity look like? How to privately, if a child's patka were to come off at school, do the teachers have the knowledge to understand, where should we take the child, privately put the patka back on? Because there is a step-by-step instruction that you can use inside the box. The box is there as an educational resource kit. This doesn't mean that every teacher may feel comfortable or may not feel comfortable, and that's okay. As long as the education is given, professional learning is at no cost. Each box does have a cost to it. It is $80 for each of the kits, but it has so much educational materials inside for a teacher to understand if he or she does have a student that does wear a patka, or if in a recreation center, when it comes to summer camp programs, I did a huge 5,000 workshop with students, leaders at the city of Brampton, where they do have the knowledge on how to help a student or someone in the camp programs on how to retie the patka if need be. And that's basically what's inside the kit.
That's it. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Additional speakers? Ms. Carr, there's a trademark after the Patka box.
Yes.
Is that it's a proprietary product, is it?
Yes, it is. So
And-
within Canada and other countries now.
Okay, and the proceeds are spent how? It's
So
not a charity,
no, it's not a charity.
so it's a corporation.
Yes.
Okay, and how many other cities in Canada have embraced this prior to us?
So most of the cities, so City of Brampton, the town, so the region of Peel collectively did a delegation. They approved the motion where they wanted not only the boxes within Peel, but in the rec centers as well. So Commissioner Bill Boyes was the one that approved the delegation motion to have all of these placed in every rec center. City of Burlington, City of Mississauga, different areas, Barrie, City of Barrie. Most of the recreational departments have approved the boxes.
So that's Burlington, Barrie, Peel Region.
Peel region. There are some that I'm in conversation right now with the other cities as well.
Okay. So we would be number 4.
And then there's going to be more delegations.
We'd be number 4.
Pardon?
We'd be number 4.
Yes.
Okay. And are any of these in boards of
Yes.
education, school facilities?
Yes. So there is one Patka box in City of Brantford. There are, so within Ontario, every single school board, I'm working in conversation with Peel right now to get further boxes into their system. Durham, Niagara, Lambton, so most of the Ontario school boards. So I was hoping to donate, and this is one of the biggest things as to why I wanted to do this delegation, is to donate the boxes to the schools in Brantford as part of
So-
my Pay It Forward
Are
in
there any
honor of
school-
my father.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. My apologies if I cut you off. Are there any boards of education that currently have these in place?
In Brantford? Or in
No,
other schools?
anywhere.
Yes.
Anywhere,
So,
yeah.
yeah, so more than 500, more than, I would say 20 school boards in Ontario.
Okay, thank you for that. And Councillor Martin, you've got a few seconds left. You have the floor.
Thank you. Just one quick question. At what age do boys start wearing a pucka?
So it all depends on the family dynamic. So if their hair is, long enough to have a top knot, then they'll start at the age of 1.5.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me thank you again for your presentation. That was pretty good and pretty informative. Now, you just hang on because we're going to deal with this resolution right off the bat because we had your delegation this evening. So I'm going to ask Councillor Sokoli if she would like to move, read, and offer first comment. Oh, and seconder's name as well, please.
Sure. Moved by myself, seconded by Mayor Davis. Whereas the City of Brantford is committed to ensuring municipal services and facilities are inclusive, respectful, and accessible to residents of all cultural and religious backgrounds. And whereas for sick children and families, the Patka is a significant article of faith, and the inability to properly secure or retie a Patka in public places can cause distress, exclusion, and barriers to participation. And whereas the Patka box is an educational and cultural resource designed to provide materials and instruction that support sick children and families when assistance is needed with Patka care within schools and community environments. And whereas providing culturally inclusive supports aligns with the city's commitment to equality, diversity, and belonging. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the City of Brantford directs city staff to engage with the Putka Box Initiative to assess suitability, availability, and implementation requirements for city-owned facilities, and that staff identify appropriate municipal locations for participation, including community centers, libraries, recreational facilities, and other public-facing belongings where children and families regularly attend. And that the City of Brantford engage with Rosie Core at the Putka Box Initiative to provide professional learning opportunities for the staff at the participating municipal locations. So I will offer first comment on it, if that's okay. I wanted to speak briefly about why I brought this forward. The Putka Box it's a small but meaningful initiative that really supports the sick children and families when a Putka, which is the head dressing, if that wasn't clear, comes undone in public spaces like community centers, libraries, or recreational facilities. And I really feel through consulting with Rosie that this initiative was about dignity. It was about access. It was about making sure that our city buildings are welcoming for everybody. And that's not just in theory, but that's also in practice through having the Putka boxes available should we need them. So I want to be clear about what this is and what this isn't. This is not construction. We're not building anything. This is not new staff. This is not a program with an ongoing budget line for us. The Putka box is a small self-contained kit with an instruction manual and materials and supplies to help family and staff respond respectfully. If a Putka comes loose while a child is at play or on occasion, this is due to bullying. So the initiative, it sounds, will have a small initial cost to implement, but there's some opportunity for donation as well with the Putka Box initiative. So for a child, I just want to make this clear, and I was recently at the Gurdwara speaking with a lot of our Sikh community, and for a child, this is not cosmetic. This is about identity. This is about faith. And when it comes undone in public and nobody knows what to do, that child feels exposed. They feel embarrassed. And the adults around them feel helpless. They don't know what to do. And we can fix that with something that costs so little and means so much. So Brantford is growing. That's no secret. It's becoming much more diverse. It's becoming more connected. And we can either pretend inclusivity is just a slogan for us here in Brantford, or we can prove it with these practical actions that meet the real needs of many of our community members. So this isn't political for me. This is just human. It costs little, it offends nobody, and it quietly tells the families in our communities that they matter here. So I'm asking for council's support to move this initiative forward. Thank you.
Well said, Councillor, and you only left 10 seconds on the table. Other speakers to this item? Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you. I won't repeat what the good words of Councillor Sokoli has already said, but as well as the Sikh community, it also educates the non-Sikh community about what Sikhism is all about and why the palka is worn. And it will educate more and more of the community to understand each other, as Councillor Sokoli has said, will make a more, not only a more diverse community, but a more accepting, diversified community. So I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Councillor, thank you. I see no other indications of desires to speak, so we shall go to the question.
Thank you. Item 8.1 carried on a recorded vote of 9-1. All those voting in favor are Mayor Davis, Councillor Sokoli, Sullivan, Caputo, Slash, McCreary, Martin, Carpenter, Samuel. Those opposed, Councillor Van Tilburg.
Thank you, Emma. We shall move backwards now in the agenda to begin discussion on item 7.1.1. And Mayor Davis, that was your separation. Please go ahead.
Yeah, and on this one, I think I might need 2 speaking opportunities, but I'll get right into it.
One at a time.
I'll do one at a time. We'll do the first one. And what I'm concerned about is Bill 60 is another instance where the province is bringing forward amendments to the Municipal Planning Act and other acts that further restrict the ability of municipalities, residents, and other stakeholders in our community from controlling the planning process or having significant input into the planning process. And, sometimes it's almost like the province is trying to deal with some municipalities that have very restrictive zoning practices in an attempt to thwart the policy the provincial government has to promote growth and the building of housing. And almost like it's punishing municipalities like ours, where we do very well in that score. And we are not a community that unduly restricts necessary and useful development in our community. So I feel like we're being punished for the sins of others. But I want to ask a question of staff. So there is a provision, as I understand it, that that would provide for, as of right, a 10% deviation on standards in our zoning bylaws, such as minimum lot size, maximum lot coverage, building height, setbacks, side yard setbacks, front yard setbacks. Did I read that correctly? Is it, so long as you're, let's say the side yard is 10 feet or 10 meters, whatever, and so long as you're only deviating by a meter, you'll be entitled to that as of right. You don't have to apply to the community of adjustment. You don't need a zoning bylaw change. Is that correct?
Through the chair to the mayor, Patrick Booser, senior planner, long range planning. That is the sort of what is proposed in that aspect. But right now, they're only adding a regulation making authority, so it's not enforced in effect. They've just given them permission to do this at the cabinet level, but that is how it could function.
Okay, and the restrictions that we have in our zoning bylaw, we just recently did a comprehensive zoning bylaw. We spent a lot of time and effort on the various standards and restrictions that we have in our zoning bylaw to protect the character and integrity of certain neighborhoods and also provide for appropriate density. Now, do these numbers we have, like maximum building height, say a side yard, rear side yard, lot coverage, was like just a bunch of people sitting around a room and just pulling these numbers out of the blue? Like, how were those numbers arrived at?
Through the chair, and I'll let my manager Joshua Scram speak to that as well, as he was lead on the zoning project. But no, my understanding is, these were comprehensively reviewed based on applications we've been seeing as a city, and with our planning consultant who helped us on the zoning bylaw, their experience in other municipalities too, seeing what developments were being approved elsewhere in the province and looking at sort of a mix of current best practice or what we're seeing in the industry, but also accounting for, again, trying to match a character that is found in Brantford.
All right, so you're saying there was a lot of time and thought and effort put into the various standards and that we have in our comprehensive zoning bylaw.
Through the chair, correct.
Designed for our community, right?
Correct.
Okay, so would it be legitimate for a municipality, if the government proceeds with this and they pass a regulation implementing it, to just simply increase all our requirements by 10% so it nets out to zero?
So through the chair, while a council can direct that, there are areas where these variances, as of right, variances would not be permitted. There's also cases where we'd have other Planning Act tools to review. So you'll often see a subdivision come before Planning Committee and Council with a zoning bylaw amendment. That also gives a way to review and see if the lot sizes are appropriate and a decision's made that's not entirely in the realm of zoning.
So Mayor, that's time. Thank you.
Put me down for a second, speaking of.
Absolutely. Councillor Celeste, you have the floor. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This appears to be another attempt to totally disfigure and destroy existing neighborhoods. They end up not being what they were intended to be in the first place. With new regulations, things happen in established neighborhoods that weren't anticipated at the time they were built. And we're cramming more and more into less and less and creating havoc on the streets as far as parking, creating havoc on houses being so jammed in that neighborhoods don't resemble their former selves. I wonder, is there a provincial standard on setbacks and on rear yards and on lot coverage? Is there a provincial standard, or does each municipality create its own standard?
So through the chair, Councillor, kind of touching on the previous question about the standards that were set through for Brantford through the comprehensive zoning bylaw review. There's a process to review comparator municipalities, looking at some of the newer standards. Obviously, our previous zoning bylaw 160-90, over 35, 40 years old. When we look to bring a new zoning bylaw to conform with our official plan, we're doing that comparator best practice analysis. And then we're also looking at best practice that is suited to the city of Brantford. What works for the city of Brantford, because we are unique. We obviously have certain standards and certain things that we've seen, certain things that councils encourage in terms of growth and what growth looks like. So we certainly have that evaluation. So no, there's no one set standard. It's our opportunity to review and make sure there's conformity with provincial policy, but specific to the city of Brantford and our regulations.
So it would be safe to assume that the standards are all over the board provincially.
So through the chair, yes, that's correct. There are different standards, but again, when you get into best practice, you will see new standards based on the product that developers are building, and then the opportunity for the municipality to provide feedback on that. That's where our zoning bylaw review makes standards specific to the city of Brantford, right? Because there's often market factors that come in, and we'll see developers proposing new products. That's our opportunity as planners to make sure that we're providing things like a proper housing mix, whether that's singles, mediums, all that range. And then we meet those standards based on, the best product for Brantford and those sets of regulations.
Okay. I guess what I was trying to gain from this is the fact that what the mayor is anticipating would make a lot of sense. That we simply increase all our standards by 10%. And if they're going to play that game, then if someone's 10% less and it's a right of ownership, then we're just back to where we really wanted to be.
So through the chair to the councillor, Nicole Wilmot, Commissioner of Community Development, I think we're getting hung up on the number and the 10%, but the setback isn't the issue. Zoning establishes a setback that we feel is appropriate, and it's a threshold for an as of right approval. When applications come in, we assess that based on the context of each individual site, and we make recommendations to this council to either uphold those as of right in our zoning bylaw or a deviation. The concern that planning staff have is that right is essentially being taken away from us. Is that right now we have an ability to work with the development community to bring forward what we feel is a recommendation for an appropriate standard if it deviates from our zoning bylaw. It's not the number, it's the fact that we're establishing an as of right approval at the province for a 10% variance that would be applied carte blanche to every property in the city where it would not necessarily be appropriate. That's the concern that we have with this regulation. It's not necessarily about the number. It's about establishing a blanket policy applicable to all urban sites within the city that doesn't give us the ability to really work with the developer to establish what is actually appropriate. And as I said, sometimes it's not necessarily what's in our zoning bylaw. That's what we've decided as a community is an as of right approval. Right now, what we're seeing is the province telling us what is appropriate as an as of right approval. And that's the heart of, I think, the issue here.
Councillor, thank you. That's time.
Okay. I've got a couple more, so I'll come back then.
Okay. Councillor Carpenter, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, to staff, then the province is giving us time to for transition our schedule for our municipal to align with their official plan and regulations. We're pretty close to that now, are we not?
Sorry, through the chair to the councillor, I'm not sure I understand your question.
Sure. So the province wants us to give some time for transitioning for a schedule to municipalities be more in line with what the province is looking for. We're already there for most part of our official plan, are we not?
Yeah, we did introduce a new official plan in 2021. We are required to look at it in 5 years, so that review is coming up. Any changes at the province, particularly around some of these issues, is a transition period, but I don't believe it would apply to this type of provision.
So
Yeah, and one of
through
the,
the chair,
this is, oh, go ahead, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add that, so through the chair, I think the question around transition deals with some of the things that is being proposed. So there's a number of schedules that are basically being asked to be reformatted. And so, as part of that process, they're asking for, okay, what would that transition look like? What is it, 2 years? Is there a longer duration that the municipality would need? So I think without us knowing with any level of concrete what those changes would be, it'd be hard for us to comment on that transition period for us because, there could be other things as outlined in the report. If we're losing secondary planning processes, if we're losing those things, then I think the question is, okay, well, how much time do we need to make those changes? You're correct.
And this legislation,
Councillor.
and this legislation gives the province the ability to make changes by regulation without having to go back with further legislation. I mean, I think that's the big one in there, is it not? But they could do this anytime and just, here's the new regulation and we'll have to adopt it.
So through the chair, and I can answer that. And yes, if a regulation is adopted, it'll have an effective date, and that's when it applies.
Oh, okay. All right. That, is there any change then? The province could change regulation on development charges as well, could they not? Yeah, under this legislation?
So just generally speaking with regulations, they're a tool that can be passed by cabinet, but the province can, through any act, establish ability to make a regulation on any other act. So
Okay.
again,
Thank
just it's based on the topic.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Counselor, thank you. Counselor Caputo, you are next in the queue, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Simple question. This is just an information report. Am I correct with that? There isn't anything we're voting on when it comes to changes unless there's amendments being made, as I see here by the mayor, but there's nothing we're going to change with this with the exception of amendments. Am I correct with that?
Through the chair, that's correct, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. I will jump in since I don't see anybody else in the queue other than my 2 second-time speakers to my right here. So a lot of these changes, it looks like they're reading from our playbook because many of these things we're already doing. They're talking about the length, number of pages of the OPs. We're already there on that. Local service policy, we're there on that. DC bylaw, we're already doing that. Have they been looking over our shoulder, do you think?
Sorry, Councillor, for clarity, what's the big one that they're looking at us?
That was a rhetorical question, actually. Thank you anyway. So no more bike lanes. That seems to be part of their Highway Traffic Act 9.1.2. We're no longer able to decommission travel lanes and turn them into bike lanes. Is that our understanding?
Through you, Chair, Sylvie Conguera, Commissioner of Public Works. What they're saying is we cannot take existing vehicle lanes and convert them into bicycle lanes. So we could still have opportunity within the existing without changing or removing, I should say, removing the vehicle lane. We can add bike lanes. So we have to work around it, but it does add constraints and make it inefficient.
That would mean a lot more capital expenditure to change the curb gutter, storm sewer outlays.
That's right.
Yeah, okay. Major transit area spoken to here. Would that apply to our Via Rail Station, bus terminal, and future transit hubs?
Through you, the Chair, it doesn't apply to Brantford. We don't have transit areas the way it is defined in that legislation.
So like so much, it's Toronto centric, basically.
Right.
Okay, Toronto and Ottawa, the 2 seats of government. Public Transport Act, does this mean that developers will be allowed to build infrastructure like roads to a lower standard than our municipal standard would be?
So through the chair to you, Councillor, that's not the case yet, but they're indicating to us is they'd like to start doing consultations. So the act they're amending already gave the province the authority to make standards. They have just never created some for roads. So what we're saying as staff is, again, without a lot of information, because that does seem to be the case with most of these postings, that they're always, we'll do things in the future. That is a possibility. We want to raise awareness to you of that possibility, but the province hasn't started consultations. They have indicated they'd be looking to include municipalities in those consultations.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Those are all my questions. I guess there's not a lot to be concerned about until we get further down the road. There's no action that we take other than receiving and commenting tonight. Mayor Davis, you're next in the queue, sir.
Thank you. I do have an amendment, but before I bring that, I'd like to comment on something that you raised, Chair, and that is this issue of inclusionary zoning. For the viewers, inclusionary zoning is when a builder or owner of a property comes to us and asks for rezoning. Inclusionary zoning is where you impose as a municipality a condition that a certain number of the units have to be made available for low and moderate income households, called affordable housing, and that be a condition of getting the zoning. It's called inclusionary zoning. My question to staff is, since many people, it's been a debate on social media, some suggesting we can solve our problem by doing inclusionary zoning. Can we do inclusionary zoning legally here in Brantford?
I'll take that one. Alan Waterfield, Director of Planning. The ability to provide inclusionary zoning is tied to the major transit station areas. And as was mentioned, we currently don't have one of those defined in our official plan in Brantford. That is one of the.
If I don't mind sorry, I'm interrupting, but I only have 4 minutes. Watch closely by the chair. Well, we have transit stations. We've got a bus terminal. We've got a train station. Doesn't that count?
We do have those things. They didn't meet the definition of a major transit station area in the previous provincial documentation. They have made a change to how it's defined. So we'll be looking at applying a major transit station area through our future official plan review. And if we do that, then we'll also look at whether or not we would apply some inclusionary zoning within.
So the answer is no.
Area.
We don't have major transit zones. We don't have anything in this community that would qualify as a major transit zone under the current requirements. And if we want to have a certain number of units that are affordable, we have to do it through incentive plans, such as we do with development charges. The units that are affordable, there's no development charges, or it's the tax increment grant program that's scaled to encourage affordable housing. That's how we have to do it here in Brantford. Yes? No?
That has been the case.
Okay.
Again, that may change a bit if we're able to now establish a major transit station area in our OP. They've changed the way that they've defined what could be included as one. So
I apologize, I'm being a little bit aggressive, but I have such limited speaking time. So I'm going to jump right into the amendment, if I may. And I'm looking for a seconder, and I think you see it in, Councillor Van Tilborg has agreed to second it. So if I may, can I read that? Do I'm allowed?
Of course.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay, so this is adding a C and D to the resolution before us, reading as follows. That given the province is considering prohibiting municipalities from undertaking secondary planning or area-specific plans which provide a critical tool for municipalities to comprehensive plan for development, the Council of the City of Brantford respectfully requests the province to continue to allow for municipalities to adopt secondary plans and area-specific plans, and that a copy of this resolution be circulated to the Honourable Doug Ford Premier, the Honourable Rob Flack, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Member of Provincial Parliament for Brantford, Brant, Wilboma, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO. And if I may comment on this? Okay, I'll do the same just to keep track of you keeping track of me. So, for the viewers, what this is referencing is probably the most significant section of Bill 60 in terms of impacting this community. And I'm talking about the boundary lands. Those are the lands that came into the city that are primarily North Power Line Road. And the way we've been providing the doing the detailed planning for those areas is we've got 7 blocks up there, blocks of land or areas, and we're doing detailed block planning with the landowners. And a detailed block plan, that's where you actually lay out where the schools are going to be, the playgrounds, the streets, kind of like plan a subdivision under the old system. It's a very detailed document, and you really can't do that in the zoning bylaws. So, and it's a secondary bylaw, secondary plan, secondary to our comprehensive zoning bylaw. And it is important for us because we plan all the infrastructure in our boundary lands based on certain density expectations, that a certain block area will have a certain number of single family homes, townhouses, apartments, and that goes into calculating and designing your stormwater system, your sanitary sewer system, your water system, very critical. And so with this, it's going to prevent or restrict our ability to do block planning. And it's a major concern for us here in this community. So want to make sure that the province is aware of that as they're rolling out the detailed regulations of this impact of as they implement Bill 60. And so I'm hoping everyone will support this, that we send a message to the province that there is a very useful and productive role for secondary plans, especially when they're block plans, such as what we're doing here in Brantford, and asking the province to take a second look at that and not just simply prohibit secondary plans. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mayor, thank you very much. We're on the amendment, folks. Speakers. And Mayor, sorry, could you remind us who the seconder was?
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We will go to the question on this. On the amendment, yes.
And the amendment carried on a recorded vote of 10-0. All those voting in favor are Councillors Van Tilburg, Samwell, Carpenter, Martin, McCreary, Slash, Caputo, Sullivan, Secolia, Mayor Davis.
Well done, Mayor. Unanimous. We're back to the motion now as amended. Are there any other speakers? Then let us embark upon. Motion as amended is subject to a further speaking opportunity. Go ahead, Mayor.
2 more speaking opportunities, I believe, but that's okay. I'm not going to take advantage of that. I've said my piece on this. Thank you.
That was the epitome of brevity. Thank you. Yes.
Item 7.1.1, as amended, carried on a recorded vote of 10-0. All those voting in favor are Mayor Davis, Councillors Secolia, Sullivan, Caputo, Slash, McCreary, Martin, Carpenter, Samwell, and Van Tilburg.
Thank you for that. We are on to 7.1.2, which is the real estate policy. And this is an item that Councillor Martin and I initiated by way of resolution some time ago. And we'd like to thank staff for the quick and thorough work that was done. The history of this, it came about as a result of an unsolicited offer and discussions that many members of the council had with a proponent, which indicated that there was some degree of discomfort at the time, hair on the back of the neck, standing up responses. And most of us realized that we needed a little more clarity in the way that we conduct our business with respect to real estate. So this establishes a process which excludes councillors from discussions around acquisition, disposal, price, negotiations. Inquiries now go via inquisitors to staff for professional action. This follows our longtime policy with respect to procurements and purchasing, where lobbying and discussion with senior staff and members of council is prohibited. Now it's applicable to property too. For those of you in the community, what this means is you can still make an inquiry of your councillor or of the mayor, but that'll be forwarded now directly to staff without any further involvement by those folks. And so, the important takeaway is that we can still forward this on your behalf, but we're not involved in this. It relieves council as well of some difficulties that some of us may feel. We're not realtors, we're not negotiators, we're representatives of our constituents. This is going to be, I think, a bit of a change for us. And I think it really is to our benefit, and it's hopefully in the end, this is going to save any of us from getting into a spot of trouble. Other comments? Mayor Davis. Mayor Davis, you have the floor.
Well, I think Councillor Carpenter has hand up before I did. Okay. So I know this is as a result of a resolution you brought forward several months ago. And frankly, I thank you for this because this will be very helpful for council members, including the mayor. You know, we've all had these calls. Someone's calling you, they can be pretty aggressive and they want you to commit to committing to agreeing to selling a land or them buying a land, whatever it is. And almost like pushing into a situation where you're negotiating with someone you have no information when you shouldn't be. Not that I've ever done it. I've been able to resist it, but it's hard. And you know, you'll have these, many of them will be local landowners, and they'll expect you as the mayor or the councillor to support them or support what they want to do. And so this provides, I think, a lot of transparency, and it, you know, avoids the allegations that there's favoritism, et cetera, because now we have officially, but we'll have officially a policy where we can say, as members of council, that's interesting. Thanks. I'm going to pass your inquiry on to staff and they'll get back to you. And I think it's going to be very helpful, both in terms of transparency, but also, as you have said, Mr. Chair, keeping members of council out of trouble and having an easy answer to businesses or landowners in town that expect that they can, you know, pressure you or lobby you or advocate with you. So it's a great policy, fully support it.
Mayor, thank you. Councillor Carpenter, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. I remember that at time, Councilor McCurry or Mr. Chair, when you said the hair was standing on the back of our neck. The concern is when council members are approached and there's a price mentioned about property back and forth, and those kinds of discussions are really inappropriate for members of council. So this does make it crystal clear. Public could still come to us and say, look, we're interested in selling our property. And then we can say, look, we refer you to the staff. That's who deals with this. We have a policy. That makes it crystal clear that we no more council members in the middle of negotiations on property values or buying or selling a property. So I'm happy to see this come forward. It needed to clean up for a while. Thank you.
Councillor, thank you very much. Additional speaker, Councillor Sokoli, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And this question might be for Nicole. I believe it will be, but pertaining to unsolicited offers and when we as a council or when we as a city perhaps receive unsolicited offers. And for the public, an unsolicited offer means that we have land that we own and it's not listed for sale, but somebody's determined that they see it and they like it and they have a vision for it. So they make an offer to purchase it. So can someone from staff outline for us the process that an unsolicited offer goes through behind the scenes from A to B? So from the second you receive that offer to final decision making, if someone can just outline that process for the public.
Through the chair to Councillor Sokoli, my name is Tara Tran. I'm in the Economic Development and Real Estate Division as a senior project manager. I assisted with creating or to updating this policy, so I'll answer the question about unsolicited offers. There is a step-by-step process that involves multiple staff members. It involves using some criteria such as whether the land has any identified priorities or council direction or a special project tied to that may be something worth considering. And then from there, going through different levels to ensure that other related departments have an ability to comment on what that land might have served for the city to stay in their ownership, whether there are any encumbrances or easements or utility concerns or servicing limitations to that land, and then working together to determine whether the unsolicited offer has any merit that is deemed, worth considering, or simply advising that party that it's not at this time a viable offer. But it's certainly considered at a team level, including the commissioner and the senior leadership team. So if it is deemed to have some merit, then studying it, whether it's through circulation to an internal circulation of staff or extending it out to others to have comment on. External agencies might include public utility commissions, telecommunication, hydro, GRCA, for example, seeking their input, and then using all of that information to then craft a report that council may consider with the offer at hand.
That was very detailed. Thank you very much. I do have one more question if I have time. Pertaining to the section 9.4, which is the procurement of external real estate services. Can you walk me through the process that hopefully a local realtor can go through to engage the city to represent them in the sale of property here in the city of Brantford?
Through the chair to Councillor Sokoli, we will be using our existing purchasing policy to make sure that we follow all the guidance there in terms of retaining professional services. There could be options as to whether we need to establish a roster of some kind of those who are qualified to provide us those services, and give allow them to propose their services to meet a 1 year or 2 year contract, and then allowing that to take place, but in a year or two, renew that ability for others to be on the roster. But in other cases, we may need to refer to more of an RFP, a request for proposal, because the project just requires special specifications or skill sets. So it is going to be determined by our purchasing policy what approach we use to fairly and use transparency.
So the opportunity will be posted on a website.
Yes.
Somewhere, and realtors will have
Sorry,
the
yes,
opportunity.
that's right. They will. It will be advertised.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sokoli, I'm getting you too confused. Councillor Caputo, you do look a lot alike, yes.
Yes, it's my twin sister. I think this is a great policy. I didn't know it any other way, to be honest, but I will still continue to conduct myself in the same manner I've always done. I will always embed myself in the community and have developers speak to me about properties and so forth. But as I've always done in the past, I still bring it forward to the proper channels and go through the proper individuals, including sometimes when we've had meetings where I've reached out to real estate and we've gone through and sat down with a developer and gone over various properties that are for sale within the city. And I will see through a project usually from start to finish and embed myself in there. But certainly, again, I will support this, but again, it isn't going to change how I conduct myself.
Thank you, Councillor Caputo. Any other first-time speakers before and there he is. Councillor Van Tilburg, you have the floor, sir. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Perhaps I'm confused, especially after what I just heard. Councillor Caputo made some statements that he would be involved in the pricing and discussing with the developer and staff. Yes, you kind of did. And if you didn't, that's fine. We'll just use it as an example. That would be what would not be allowed. Is my understanding with this, that a councillor would not be sitting with the developers and staff while pricing was discussed.
Point of clarification for you, Councillor Van Tilburg. I have been involved with developers when it comes to properties, but never have gotten involved with price. Never got involved with negotiations. Only with vacant.
I just would like to have that answer. I misinterpreted what you said, so I will retract that and apologize. But what it did, there was a planted a seed in my head from what I thought I heard, which was that just so it's very clear, because my understanding was a councillor cannot is not to be, once they forwarded a property to be discussed with staff, involved in the process any longer. Would that be correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Van Tilburg, and thank you, gentlemen, for clarifying that exchange for us. I think that was a good discussion to be had. Any other folks want to speak a first time? I see none. So Councilor Carpenter, I'd like you to go ahead and take the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Just a quick question to staff. In the report, 5.3 says transactions at fair market value. It says all transactions will be equal to or better than market value unless council otherwise directs. So, and then 5.4 says determining that value, an appraisal, and this is a concern I have, these words may be obtained when the Commissioner of Community Development or designate estimates that the value exceeds $200,000. So do we have people that have the expertise in knowing that something is over $200,000?
Councilor, could you give that reference again, please?
And it's 5.3 and 5.4 in the policy.
Thank you.
The 5.4 says an appraisal may be obtained when the Commissioner of Community Development estimates that the value exceeds $200,000. So my concern is the maybe. Should that not be will be? And if not, what expertise does the Commissioner of Community Development have in appraising for that about property is actually over 200,000?
So through the chair to the counselor, there's a couple of different questions you asked there. I think you asked me about three in there. So the policy allows for some flexibility to suggest that we may not always seek an appraisal, particularly if we feel that the property is not for sale, in which case then we would not be looking to appraise that property. Further to that, it's not referencing necessarily the expertise of the Commissioner of Community Development, but it's that the real estate division falls within the Commissioner with the Commission of Community Development. So again, we internally assess whether or not we feel that we want to proceed in making a recommendation to council. But further to that, we also rely on land appraisals and recent land transactions that have occurred within the city, and we have that data and we update that regularly with our appraisal. So it comes from a variety of sources, not necessarily from one designated person and their expertise.
So, but doesn't an appraiser require someone certified to do appraisals, or are you saying this sort of a?
Oh, yes, absolutely. What we're suggesting is that we have some flexibility on whether or not we seek a qualified land appraisal company to do an appraisal for us, not that we would be doing that internally on our own.
But we're making that assessment without us be able to have the expertise on appraisal. We're just going to look at on current land values, is what you're saying. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, we're using current land values as well as recent transactions within the city boundary to assess whether or not that value we think would exceed over $200,000. But in most instances, particularly if we're bringing something to council, we're going to use a land appraisal company to prepare a market assessment. But I think the policy is just allowing with some flexibility that we're not always going to seek that surface if it's not necessary.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. I don't see any other requests to speak, so we shall go to the question.
Item 7.1.2 carried on a recorded vote of 10-0. All those voting in favor are Mayor Davis, Councilor Sokoli, Sullivan, Caputo, Slass, McCreary, Martin, Carpenter, Samwell, and Van Tilburg.
Thank you, Emma. So next up, I believe we have item 8.2, Councilor Sokoli. That is your second resolution of the evening. Would you like to tell us the name of the seconder and then embark upon reading it in commentary, please?
Sure thing. This will be seconded by my ward mate, Councillor Sullivan. Whereas Lorne Park is one of the city's most cherished public spaces, valued for its natural beauty, historic character, and role as a gathering place for generations of residents. And whereas a mature willow tree at Lorne Park was recently lost in 2023, and a significant portion of another willow tree was lost, thus altering what had become a visual and emotional landmark within our community. And whereas members of the public have expressed strong interest in replanting willow trees and formally recognizing the historical significance associated with the original planting. And whereas the replacement of a prominent heritage tree paired with an appropriate commemoration contributes to environmental stewardship, heritage preservation, and community pride. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the City of Brantford hereby directs staff to assess the feasibility of planting a weeping willow tree or a suitable native alternative at Lorne Park to replace the lost trees subject to horticultural safety and site conditions, and provide recommendations on appropriate locations and species selection to ensure long-term sustainability and safety, and explore historical significance associated with the original willow tree and the park's heritage, and report back to council with recommendations, estimated costs, and implementations prior to the end of Q2 2026. If I may speak to this? Yeah.
I have a point of order.
Oh.
Before Councilor Sicoli starts. We actually have not approved item 7.1. They remain on the floor. It says all items have, committee report 7.1 separated for discussion be approved, and we have to do that.
And I thought we voted on all of that.
We shall leave that until we conclude this item, but thank
Very
you for
well,
pointing
Chair.
that out. Good save. We wouldn't want to be held responsible for transgressions like that.
All right. So just to give everybody an idea of where this is coming from, it comes from a variety of emails that I received along with my ward mate, and of quite a few Facebook posts that some individuals had some concerns about the health of the remaining willow tree that is at Lorne Park, and that led to some conversations with staff about the care of the current willow tree that's there. There was some damage, which leaves it a little bit heavy on one side. So some very significant pruning needs to occur every year to ensure that the roots remain underground, which then led to some discussion on what we can do to bring back those willow trees, or what we can do today so that we can create or plant a legacy for the future so that we can keep that landscape going at Lorne Park. So I did receive a few heartfelt messages from residents who grew up under those trees, and people aren't asking for anything extravagant here. They're just asking for some recognition, some replacement, and respect for something that really mattered to them. And when I was reflecting on this over the holidays, it occurred to me that there are generations of families who have gathered under these willow trees and in this park for wedding photos and grad photos. I know there's a lot of schools where they all meet when they're graduating high school at a certain time at Lorne Park, and they take these photos there. And I reflected on my own history there. My daughter's baptism photos were taken there at Lorne Park. So, you know, the willow tree that was lost was quite a part of that history. So what we're talking about is replanting like a native species here. There shouldn't be a detrimental cost to doing this. Just exploring what we can plant so that we can avoid this happening down the road. Where the best location to plant these would be. There was an email that we got that had a really suggested a really interesting historical significance attached to the original willow tree, and maybe not every detail of that was perfect, but it's the community sense of connection that's incredibly real here on this site. So hope that I have everybody's support to explore this and to look at planting something new there at Lorne Park that we can so we can help the next few generations, give them a landscape and a backdrop for their graduation photos. Thank you.
Councillor, thank you for that. Before we continue, I would like to provide a response to Councillor Van Tilburg. I thought I had asked for a mover seconder for everything before us tonight, Councillor, and checking with the clerk, we've done that. So we've already accommodated that. It's already on the floor. Yep. Councillor Sless, you have the floors.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll certainly be supporting this. I think the only concern I have, it does have some discretion about what type of tree could be used. It's obvious that the willow trees, they were there probably 100 years. So obviously they thrive in the conditions that are there. So it would make sense to replace what's there as opposed to trying to introduce something new to the area that I don't know if that would be friendly, that it be willow trees that are, or willow tree. I'm not sure. The one that's still there is looking pretty naked. I don't know whether they're leaving what's there, or whether that's coming down and they just made it safe till the spring when they can take it all down. But what's there is rather scant. There's not a whole lot left of that poor fella, and it's probably been there 100 years or more. So I would hope that, yeah, we jump on this quickly and get trees planted in there where, as was said, wedding parties and whatnot gather. It's kind of the place to go. If you get married in this city, you end up in Lorne Park and you end up by those trees. So I think it's important that we do something with this and do it quickly, because every day that we don't plant it is another day that it's not growing. So hopefully we can get on this fairly quickly and have something in there in the spring. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well said, Councillor. Thank you. Councillor Carpenter, jump in there. You've got the floor, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm glad we didn't put a specific tree in there. Otherwise, it would have lost my support. I'm in support of this, but because we're looking for a report and from information coming back from staff, my understanding of willow trees is that their roots grow continuously underground, and they track water very quickly. And there are a number of residents in the area that we have old storm sewer systems and old sanitary systems, and I would make sure I would want a part of the report to include the risk of the underground issues with willow tree roots going into the neighboring properties and damaging the infrastructure leading to those properties. So that'll be part of the whole report, because I think the resolution has got everything covered into it. So I'd like to know all those issues when it comes forward, what the best way to plant trees in Lorne Park. Otherwise, I'll support it. But if we want to make a specific recommendation before we get the information, I'd have concerns about that. Thank you.
Councillor, thank you. Further speakers? Councillor Sokoli, did you want to clarify something? You have the floor.
I can just elaborate a little bit on the comments that I've heard. And I've learned quite a bit about willow trees lately. So I've learned that there's quite a few varieties of them, and some may be less aggressive than others, and still provide that same veil. So I didn't want to be incredibly specific on purpose in here to allow for some commentary from staff. So I think that's why I didn't, that is why I was not so specific with what we're doing there, and wanted to allow staff an opportunity to research what was there. But the tree that's there that is left is pruned so aggressively back because it's so heavy on one side that the roots were lifting. So it needs to be pruned that way. But I'm told that it grows back very aggressively, and so it's not necessarily a negative thing. We're not hurting the tree by doing that, but it's more of a need to happen in order to sustain the roots underground. So I hope that helps clarify, but I think at this point I would really like to keep it intentionally vague on what we're going to be replanting. And then when something comes back from staff for us to look at, we can make a decision then on what we want to do with those trees.
Councillor, thank you very much for that. Additional speakers? Well, let me just add then that it is an icon. It's something that defined a number of generations in this city. As Councillor Celeste said, that and Glenhurst are the two popular locations to get your wedding photos done, and it does look a bit naked. I think proceeding with the installation of another willow is probably appropriate. They're heavy feeders. They like a lot of water. The roots typically don't extend beyond the drip line, which is the case with most trees. And interestingly enough, it's not the only heritage tree that we have in this community. We did or do still have one of the two massive oaks in Daubeny Park, which were there the day the Americans came through and were soundly thrashed at Oakland in 1814, I believe. Yeah, how's that for dredging up something arcane and obscure? I wonder do we have anybody from Parks and Rec on board for the meeting?
Through you, Chair, we have Mike Westwood online.
Okay.
You can jump on board.
Hi, Mike. We, going way back when the mayor was a boy, we did a master plan for Lorne Park. Do you know if that's accessible still, and if by council day, if you could sort of append that to us. Do you have any familiarity with that? I think that was well before your time, I would imagine.
Mike Westwood, Manager of Cemeteries, Horticulture and Forestry. To the chair, yes, that was before my time, and I'm not intimately familiar with the plan. So I'm not sure if I can answer your question.
Okay. Perhaps generally we can ask staff if they can find that and append that so we can have a look at that when this comes back to us, because we haven't revisited that in a long time. I don't think it has any bearing on what's before us tonight, but it certainly would be appropriate in as much as it may have some bearing on what the future for that park might hold. Staff willing to accept that as just direction to append that?
Yes,
Is that
Mr.
okay? Thank you very, very much for that. Other comments? Seeing none, let's go to the question.
Item 8.2 carried on a recorded vote of 10-0. All those voting in favor are Councilors Van Tilburg, Samwell, Carpenter, Martin, McCreary, Sless, Caputo, Sullivan, Secolia, Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Emma. Councillor Samwell, it's your time to introduce your notice of motion, please.
Support for the Elect Respect Pledge.
Thank you for that, Councillor. And folks, we are concluded tonight. Thank you for participating. And to those of you who attended in person or remotely, I wish you a fond good evening.